Hi, folks. We have returned, and that's Cathe over there, Beth over there.
Hey there.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
We're going to talk about threads tonight. It's always fun
My
to
favorite.
talk about threads. Beth gets all excited. It's just a thing. It's a thing.
I know. I know. But at least we're not stroking them, so
Yeah,
Jennifer can't
yeah.
get upset.
Yeah, Jennifer can't be with us tonight. Pray for Jennifer. She is really struggling with her health here these days. Put her on your prayer list. She could use a couple of shots there. Yeah, she just that pseudo migraine thing she deals with is just keeping her down here these days.
Oh.
So pray
Yeah,
for her.
that's not good.
She needs a little boost. So please do that. Tonight, Cathe is going to talk about threads, continuation of the metallic threads. Cathe's Needle in a Haystack, needlestack.com. Please support Cathe. She does this out of the kindness of her heart and for the good of the cause. So please support her because we appreciate it. And it is so much fun to stare at threads. So coming Sunday, this is, this was so much fun. Claire Hunter, who did a book 2 years ago, Threads of Life, has her second book out, Embroidering Her Truth, Mary Queen of Scots and the Language of Power. And it is a terrific book. I mean, you think, oh, there's some more history. No, with the way Claire writes, it's history, but it's history in novel form. It is absolutely riveting. It goes on sale tomorrow. And she will be our guest on Sunday. So urge you to pick up the book because you will enjoy it and enjoy learning about Mary Queen of Scots and how embroidery stayed with her throughout all of her trials and tribulations. And yeah, it's a good one. This is a piece. There's a chapter about this piece. This is one of hers, a little out of focus, but this is one of Mary's embroideries. And so pick up that book and listen to the show on Sunday. We don't talk about the book as much as we talk about what's behind the book, what went into it, what she learned from it, those kinds of things. So listening to the show will not read the book for you, trust me. But we had a great time talking with her. It was just, she's so much fun and knows so much. So catch that, get that book, and catch the show on Sunday. There's no drawing tonight, and everybody should have your packages from previous drawings. We'll do a drawing next week, and let's see. If you have images that I can use for the Wednesday videos, please send them. I'd be happy to have them. And today's video, it went up for 2 or 3 hours. As I was telling Beth, I was doing 3 things on 2 computers at the same time and grabbed the wrong file. And so there for a short while, the video that was up was an old one Beth and I had done. So I took that down. The correct one is up there now. But if you heard Beth and me talk, that's the wrong one. You should hear Cindy and me for today. So
And it was really good. It was a really good talk with you guys. I enjoyed it. I really did.
Oh, the one today or the one you and I did?
The one today. I didn't listen to the one you and I did. Oh, please.
Beth, your answer is yes. Just say yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just
It
say
was
yes,
wonderful. It was wonderful.
So the podcast one, the audio one, was right all along. I just goofed up, grabbed the wrong file when I made the video. So if you had trouble with that, it should be Cindy and me today. And try again. Also, if you want to volunteer to be on a Stitch Hour show and show your work and talk about it, we would be glad to have you. Now, the other thing that we talked about last week and on the podcast today was the Stitch St. Luce Women's Cooperative in Madagascar. And Rebecca Dallimore from the UK, who is the coordinator for that operation, wrote to us, and I'm not going to read the stuff tonight, but how much they appreciated the last time we talked, which was almost 2 years ago. And we sent them a bunch of floss and needles, and how much they appreciated that. And so what we're going to do is, what we're doing is renewing the effort here to send them more. And this is a picture. Here's a couple pictures of the ladies in Madagascar sorting out skeins of thread that came from our effort, and how much they appreciate it. It really helped them rack to them. And I'm just going to put this up just briefly, but these are all the mailing instructions. You need to follow the mailing instructions precisely so that you don't get stuff sent to England that goes into customs and Rebecca has to go get it and pay extra fees and postage because it's a nonprofit thing and you don't want to add cost to it. So follow these instructions exactly. They're in the notes for this podcast. They're in the notes for the podcast today that Cindy and I did. And they're, sorry, cold today. And they're in the notes from last Wednesday night show. So you can find them and follow them. But now what we're doing this time, you guys are going back on screen. What we're doing this time, except Cathe, who went off to help a customer.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
It's okay, Cathe. Don't sweat it.
No, I needed to go grab another cord.
Don't sweat it. You can go get a whiskey. It's okay. Just, whatever works.
Oh, thank you. No, it's the vodka that's in the freezer.
Oh, okay. What we're doing this time that we did not do the last time is if you would prefer to send threads or needles to me, then we will package them up and send them on to Rebecca. So if you don't want to deal with sending to the UK and dealing with the customs forms and all that stuff, Margaret is quite adept at doing that. You can send to me, but send me an email, Gary@WeTalkFiber.com, and I will send you my address. All I'm doing is typing in the address. I'm not giving you some flowery thing to talk about. I'm just putting the address in and replying. And then email to me. And I got from somebody already today this wad. So that was the first one. I know of at least 3 others that are on their way to us. So send whatever you want. Even if you want to take 2 skeins and put them in a business envelope and send them, do it. You got 2 skeins. You just say, hey, I can contribute these. Every skein makes a difference. You saw those ladies there piling things up on the floor. Every skein makes a difference. So even if you just want to do 1 skein, do it. Put a 50-cent stamp on. Is that what they are, 50 cents anymore? Probably 60 cents by now. I don't know.
I think it might be closer to 60.
That's Marga's department. I don't pay attention. But you can do that. Just that simple. You can do that simple. This was shoved in a bubble envelope, just a whole bunch of them. You don't have to put a note. You don't have to do anything. Just put them in there. I know what they're for, and send them. And then we'll box them up when we get a bunch of them. We'll box them up and send them off, and then we get a bunch more. So feel free to contribute DMC floss and needles. And then Cindy asked in the show whether it was going to be tapestry or Sharps needles, and I forgot to write to Rebecca and find out. Let's just say send whatever needles you want to send. I'm sure they'll make it work. So, but it would really be nice if we could send a bunch of stuff to the ladies in Madagascar so they can to help them keep their business going. And if you're so inclined, go to Etsy, and they have all their stuff for sale in their Etsy shop. And if you're so inclined, there's little bracelets that reminded me of what girls did in high school. Made little bracelets and traded them around.
Oh, like the friendship things?
Yeah, those things. They have a whole bunch of those. You can pick up a couple of those, give them to your kids, any number of things. But help support these people if you're so inclined. And, of course, as you see opportunity, and I put the links in for Ukraine, too, in the podcast today, the audio podcast today, because that's obviously a place where you can help if you're so inclined. So there we go. Always a place to help out. Cool. But this is a good opportunity here to help some ladies who are helping themselves and have a business that they're running that is self-sustaining in Madagascar. And so that's good. So that's all the announcements we have. Cathe, we were talking just a moment before the thing. You went to Nashville. Tell us stories.
Yeah. Well,
the stories you can
everybody
tell.
Everybody was just so excited to be there. It's like we haven't seen each other in 2 years. I came back from Nashville 2020, got back on a Monday. The following Monday, my county went into lockdown.
Yeah.
And, it was the beginning of was obviously been a long time for all of us. So it was just great to see people, to be able to say hello in person. One of my friends who's also a vendor asked me on Saturday what the highlight so far of the show on up to Saturday had been for me. And I told her it was to be able to hug Alma from Blackbird, because it was her first show without Barb.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a struggle for her, but it was just so great for her to be there. And we just, had a great time honoring Barb's memory while we were there. So
that's great. Yeah.
that was really good. But there were new shops that came to buy stuff. There were new vendors. A few of the usual vendors weren't able to make it for one reason or another. Shepherd's Bush couldn't come because I think it was Tina had eye surgery and her doctor wouldn't let her fly.
Good move there. Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah, there was a bit of that where people couldn't make it for one reason or another. But everybody had a great time and was just so excited to be there and see stuff, and less about see stuff, more about see people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because the reality is we can all buy most of that stuff without ever leaving our office or our couch.
Yes.
So we really, for me personally, I go to those things because it's the human to human connection that, I really like. It's like I've followed Priscilla and Chelsea of the Housewives when they first started doing YouTube videos in 2018, whatever year that was, 2017. It was the first time I'd actually ever got a chance to meet them. So that was nice.
Yeah.
It was that sort of thing where you get a chance to actually put a face to a name or talk to the people you normally don't get to see and haven't gotten to see in person for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
Yeah, for you shop owners, you're nose to the grindstone, and it's your one chance to meet with other shop owners and friends.
And it's just nonstop shopping. It's like there's as many vendors as there were like 133 vendors.
Oh.
And that's part of a day Friday, all day Saturday, a good chunk of Sunday. There's not enough time to actually go to every vendor and actually have a conversation with every vendor.
Right.
So sometimes you kind of have to go, hi, glad to meet you, or nice to see you, talk to you for like 5 minutes, and then I got to run.
Right.
And then there's the people that, you want to have a longer conversation with because maybe they're new. And you want to find out more about their product line or their business or whatever. There was a couple of new people who had embroidery related stuff, which was nice to see more of that.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice.
So
that is nice.
Yeah, it was a good mix. There wasn't anything where it was like, oh, I wish there had been a vendor selling, something. Pretty much everything was represented.
That's great.
Which was nice.
That's great. Yeah, I remember back, the last one that they had, everybody was wondering, can we shake hands? Can we hug? Because it was just, it was just on the cusp of it there. And then everything got shut down. And then
all hell broke loose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Yep. Yeah, you're right. You got home and it was over. Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So, well, that's great. I'm glad to see that.
But we've survived. So.
Yep. Yeah. Glad to see that happen. That's an important show. So
it was a big milestone. Yeah. And this weekend they're having a needlepoint show in Atlanta.
Oh.
So their things are picking up again for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're starting to see more shops getting their live events on the calendars, and it's starting to return, which is good. Yeah. Yay. All right, let's talk about some threads, huh?
Okay.
You got some threads to talk about?
I got plenty of threads to talk about. You want to flip the screen?
Let's do that. I'm going to switch there. There we have it. I'm going to take...
Oh, and it's even oriented correctly. I always like that when that happens.
I'm going to take that one off. Yep. It's almost like we're organized and like we have our act together.
Yeah. Well, we'll see whether or not that I stay that way. But yeah. So last time I that's a whole other story. So last time I finished up with things like the Kreinik metallics and Avera Soie metallics and that sort of whole range of things, and did not get to the Rainbow Gallery metallic or metallic related stuff, or the more natural fiber stuff that we don't normally think of. So I was going to start with those and then finish up with, part of what's on the table here. So linen thread is actually a fairly popular thread to use, not so much for cross stitch, more for, did it get stuck?
Oh, it looks like it did. Because nothing moved.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, I'm not actually even seeing anything at the phone, on the phone.
We're
It's
seeing
like,
the initial image, and that's it.
yeah, hang on a second. This was kind of what happened last time when it went wacky.
Yep.
It's trying to connect again. Hang on one sec.
Bear with us, folks. We'll get it.
Well, worst case scenario, I can actually hold them up to the iPad screen. So yeah, it's kind of stuck in connecting for some reason.
You want to disconnect and try again?
Yeah, let me just.
Here, I'll cut you off.
Yeah, let me disconnect it. Yeah, let me disconnect it and try it again.
See,
Yep.
that's the trouble
Nope. Okay.
when people get shocked by looking at me.
Okay, hang on. Let's see if it'll do it this time.
Sorry, folks. It's a lot of
The
technology.
joys of technology.
It's a lot of technology to pull this off from all across the country here. Let's see here.
Okay, I need to mute it.
There we go.
Okay. And then let me make sure that the power is plugged in. Hang on one sec. It's going to disappear the screen for a second, I think.
Okay.
But that's okay. I'm just checking to make sure that the power is in fact actually connected, because sometimes it tells me it is and then it's not. Yep, it is. Okay. Okay, let's turn it again. Okay.
There we go. All right, now I got to rotate it.
Yeah. Yeah, see if you can rotate it. Okay.
There we go.
Got it?
All right, I think we're in business.
Okay, let me put it back in. It was connected to the power, but I think it was just having a signal problem, which is weird because it's not on the Wi-Fi. Okay, we'll try that. Yes, that is actually what it looks like now. Yes, we have hands. Excellent.
All right.
We appreciate you guys with patience for the technology hour of threads. So we sell three kinds of linen thread. There are people who actually stitch with linen thread. We do sell quite a bit of it for people who are doing bookbinding that want to do it with an unwaxed thread and want it to be more decorative. So the Londonderry, which is distributed by Access Commodities, it comes in 3 weights. So the 18-3, so any thread that has a slash after it, if it's 2, it means it's 2 things plied together. If it's 3, it means it's 3 things twisted together. So this is an 18-3. So this is almost the weight, about the weight of a Pearl 5. So it's pretty thick.
Okay.
And then there's a 30, a 50, an 80, and then the 100 is the one that's really fine. And the 100 doesn't come in very many colors because that's usually not what bookbinders use. They tend to use these other ones.
And that's pure that's pure untreated linen that's dyed.
It's dyed, but yeah, it has nothing else in it other than linen. And then they also sell a number 4, which is significantly thicker than the 18. And this is what we sell as a lacing thread. So if you're doing a slate frame or even a pseudo slate frame that you've made out of something like a, pair of stretcher bars, the number 4 works really well because the linen is super strong and it's thick enough that it's not gonna break when you pull it really, really tight.
And it doesn't stretch.
And it comes in, it doesn't stretch, and it comes in cream and like a sort of ash gray. So if you're working with a dark fabric, you could use the ash gray, but we sell probably more of the cream than anything.
And
so those are
when
nice
I bought
ones.
my slate frame, if you buy a slate frame, Cathe has that on her site, everything you need to go with it. So that linen thread is listed right there with the slate frame, so you can get the whole package.
Yeah.
Okay, Cathe, I got to interrupt you. The really fine weight linen thread. How many colors does that come in?
It
Yeah.
only comes in 3: black,
Oh,
cream, and I think natural might be the other one, or it might be the off-white one. I think there's only 3.
okay. So can
And
you use that like if you're could you
go
use
ahead.
that for needle for like making needle lace?
Yeah, you can. It's got more texture to it than say like SWA 100 has, because it's
Right.
linen, so it's going to grab it more. So
Right.
it's going to be a little bit fuzzier because it's linen.
Right. So about what weight would that be like the 100/3 weight
Yeah,
wise?
it is. It is. Yeah, it's essentially the
Oh,
same thread, similar to the same thread in terms of size, just 100% linen.
making
Yeah.
a note.
And so it works if you're going to do like say some kind of white work, and you want it, or even black, actually black work, and you want it to have a really matte finish, um, then the linen thread works really nicely. There's a tiny bit of a sheen to it from whatever it is they treat it with before they spool it. So it's got a
Hmm.
little tiny bit of a sheen. It's not completely matte, but it's a lot less shiny than obviously the SWA 100 would be.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it works
Okay.
really
So
well for that. Mhm.
a quick question too. Elusive Stitcher wants to know what weight would you use for like a nun stitch around a cross stitch project?
Depends on the count of the linen. That's really going to be it's really going to be driven by that. So like if you're working on a 32, you'd have to use the 100 weight. And again, you only have like 3 color choices.
Mhm.
So if you're going to do it on say like a 25 or even a 28, you can probably use the 80. So the 80 is about the weight of 2 strands of floss. The 100 is about the weight of about a strand, just a little bit thicker than that. So if you're doing a really fine one, you're going to have trouble even with the 100, because unless you're doing long stitches of something. You could do it probably for black work, because black work, you're not packing it in as tightly.
Okay.
And then Rainbow Gallery also sells one that's a 16/2. So this is a 2 twist. So there's only 2 threads in the twist itself. So it's actually, in terms of the progression, it's between these. It's below the 18. Now, technically, it says it's a 16, and even though this is an 18, this is actually slightly thinner. So I would actually do it here in the progression if you wanted to do, and it does come in a decent number of colors. So if you wanted to do something with some thicker threads, you could use the 18, the Rainbow Gallery, and the 30, and get kind of a nice range of weight. Even if you were doing just say like black or even white or something.
Mhm.
For the
All right. And
Londonderry one, other than the 103, all of these, the 18, the 30, the 50, and the 80, those actually all come in the same set of colors. So you can do a shaded thing by
mhm.
thickness as opposed to a shaded thing by color.
Okay. And Sandy wants to know, would any of these 3 threads work for reenactors sewing clothing, which would have used linen thread?
Yeah. Yeah, the thickness is going to be kind of based on, if you're going to do it for construction purposes, I would say stick with either the 50 or the 80. The 18 and the 30 are probably too thick, particularly if you're working with something like the wool that would have been used in, say, 17th, 18th century uniforms. Older stuff, probably still the same though in terms of thickness, just because if you use too heavy a one, it's sometimes really hard to get it through the fabric, because even the contemporary versions of reproduction fabric are still typically tend to be woven a bit tighter than they would have been at the time, because they're usually not hand loomed.
Mm.
When it
But
Thank you.
comes
yeah,
to
they would be useful for that,
when,
or even useful for if you were trying to do say an insignia on something, to reproduce an insignia on something old that would have been done with linen thread. You could use it for that as well. Did that answer the question?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
That linen from Rainbow Galleries, that's something that I always think is interesting. is we always think of rainbow galleries as all the fancy, flashy threads like down there in the lower left. But when it comes to silks and some of these other more conventional things, they have a pretty good selection.
They do, and the other sort of oddball thing they have, which is related in terms of natural fiber, is mandarin floss. And mandarin floss is actually made from bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a bamboo fiber. It's a pliable one. It's 6 strands, so it's basically like cotton floss, only it happens to be made out of bamboo, and it's 100% bamboo. There's nothing else in it. And if you picked this up and stitched with it, you would never know that it's bamboo. You would kind of go, this feels kind of like a cotton, because that is what it feels like. And it's got a kind of similar texture to a cotton. It's got a little bit of the same sheen. So it's a really nice thread to work with, and it has some good colors in it. There's a few that have been discontinued in the last couple of years, but that's been true for a lot of threads because the manufacturers of the threads themselves, Rainbow Gallery only manufactures some of the threads. So like the Silk Lamaze, the Glisten, Entice, a bunch of those are things they actually have machines in-house that they put those things together. But things like the mandarin floss, the splendor, all of that kind of stuff, they actually source from somebody else. And these days there's just, yeah, it's the continuation of we'll be out of supply chain problems maybe by 2024 if we're lucky. But it's got but if you're looking for something that's a natural fiber, so like if you stitch with silk and you have some issues with it, because I have run across a few customers who have allergies to silk, but they like the softness of it, then bamboo is another thing to try. Isn't it the same color range?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like stitching with that. It's very nice. I've used it on several projects.
Yeah, it's a really nice thread. And the fact that it's stranded makes it really nice, because then you can do cross stitch with it on even 40 count and have it turn out nice, as opposed to you're only stuck with it, being able to do it on needlepoint because it's super thick.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the oddball ones I wanted to talk about, since they're really more the natural fibers that I hadn't gotten to in one of the previous discussions. And then in the other kinds of metallic-y things that I didn't cover last time before I get into the Rainbow Gallery stuff. So I don't know if most of you know Threadworks actually hand dyes Kreinik braid. So they hand dye the 12, the 8, and the 4. So if you're trying to do some fun metallic-y thing and you're thinking, well, it would be really nice if I had something that was variegated, you can in fact actually get it. They sell it in a pretty small put up because it's only like 10 yards, but that's actually close to the same size. It's a 10-meter spool for like the Kreinik, so it's pretty close to the same amount of yardage. But they've got some really, really nice colors.
So that's Kreinik braid that they're dyeing. I wondered where they were getting that thread. Interesting.
Yeah, it's actually Kreinik, because in fact they actually say on it so like this one, Kreinik Fine number 8 braid, artisan dyed.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Very
yeah,
cool.
So they actually do let you know that it is in fact a Kreinik that they're dyeing. I do have a Verissois metallics that are dyed too by a company in Germany, which I'll show in a sec.
Okay, quick question.
You were going to ask a question, Beth? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how many colors does the bamboo floss come in?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look, but I think maybe I'm thinking maybe 60 or 80. It's not a huge range, but it's a pretty decent range. They're all listed in the online catalog on the shop website. So if you go to needlestack.com, shop our catalog threads, just scroll down to Rainbow Gallery, and it has all of them. And most of them, I think, there's a good number that I've done photos for. I'm still behind on photos, but that's a life goal sometimes.
Yes, too.
I can't
Especially
keep
with the
up.
amount of threads. Especially with the amount of
Well,
threads
I
you
got a
carry.
shipment
Yeah.
today from Access that's got all the new colors of, I don't know, Soie de Paris, Soie Perlée. When we're done with this, I'll go grab the bag that's on my desk, and show them to you, because there's some really pretty colors in
If
there.
you
And
folks
you know,
could,
I just tell Access, it's like, when new stuff comes, just send it.
if you folks could have just seen Beth's face,
I could tell from the way she reacted.
it'll
I'm like,
take her a
oh,
minute.
I'm drooling. I'm drooling. Oh.
I'll grab them, or I'll have one of my staff grab them before they leave. So, but yeah, so if you're
Oh,
looking for
yeah.
a hand dyed metallic, you can certainly get them. So Threadworks hand dyes the Krynic, and then this company.
Okay,
This is
another question, Cathe.
mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Do the Threadworks metallic colors correspond with their overdyed flosses?
Kind of, sorta.
Okay.
You know, it's a
So like,
metallic. It's a metallic, so it's not going to dye the same.
right. But
So
let's say you
you'll
had
find
a
some.
blue
You'll find. Mhm.
and you
Yeah,
knew
you
your
can find
color.
some similarities.
Okay.
That's more of a problem, is that there's not a direct mapping between them.
Okay.
But we can usually match them if we, because we'll pull the floss off the wall and go, okay, well, let's try that. Because some of the colors that they do that are super, that are, have a lot of variation to them, it's a little bit harder to get those to turn out the same in the metallic. And because basically Krynic thread, all these threads are basically a metallized polyester. So polyester dyes differently than cotton or silk or wool or any other fiber does. So even if you could dye them in the same bath, it takes different dyes, they would still never turn out quite the same. But yeah, so if you're trying to match something and you can't quite do it, you can always let us know, and we can always, go stand in front of the rack that their metallics are on, and play with it and see what comes up. So the other one that we sell is this is a manufacturer in actually a hand dyer in Germany, Teteklum. She sells under the name Painter's Threads, and she hand dyes Aversoise metallics.
Oh.
And so, along with a bunch of other Aversoise threads. And so her stuff actually comes on a spool as opposed to skeins. And they've got some really nice colors in them. Just, kind of a nice, it shows in the photo darker than it really is. It's a little bit lighter. It's kind of a sort of pinky plummy color that also looks like it's a little bit of green because of the opalescent in it. And I don't know if they dyed the actual opalescent, or if they dyed one of the other colors. They might have dyed one of the pinks or something. But they do them in a bunch of the different sizes as well. And I've carried the 4s for quite some time, and I'm starting to pick up more of the other ones just because they're fun and I can.
What is that
Sometimes
Aversoise metallic like in comparison to Krynic? Is it still?
it's softer.
It's softer. Okay.
It's softer. Yeah, it's got a different twist to it. The Aversoise ones are much easier to do embroidery with because they're not as. So every spooling machine, or every machine that makes something like a metallic, is going to have some sort of, tension on it when they're spinning the threads.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you had, say, 5 companies use exactly the same base threads, the thread they come out with is going to be different because every one of them is going to have a different amount of tension on the threads. So the Krynic ones tend to be much more springy.
Right.
And the Aversoise threads are more soft and drapey. So like the number 4 braid in the Aversoise is my preference for doing embroidery with because it's more drapey.
Good to know.
So
yeah,
Newper wants to know, and so do I, do you carry that line of, I can't pronounce the name.
the Teteklum?
The painters, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I don't actually have them listed in the online catalog. I carry the number 4 braids. I carry the hand-dyed blends, I think it is. I carry like 5 of them, and I ordered more of some of the ones that just got released as the spooled version, which is what I tend to prefer to get them in. So if you're looking for one and it's not in the catalog, just send an email. Or if you're doing an order, this is generally true. If you're doing an order and you can't find the thread in the catalog, stick it in the comments. Because there's about maybe 10% of the threads that we sell that I've just never gotten around to putting them in the catalog.
And those threads go by like painters' names, right? So like if you knew you wanted the Van Gogh.
So this is Marianne. This particular color is Marianne. Yeah, there's like Friedrich, there's Monet, there's Monet, there's pretty much, yeah, they're all sort of painterly related names. Yeah. Yeah, it's not like, Thread Gatherer's Pond Scum kind of name. They're really more they're really more of a painter name. Although I have to say, Pond Scum is one of my favorite names for a thread.
Well, I'm just thinking because like I know like Frida, I think they carry Frida, which is based on Frida Kahlo's colorways, or like Van Gogh. Yeah. So if I said, oh, do you have like the Van Gogh and the Swagovlin? Yeah. You'd be and just put it in the note.
And if I don't have it, I can get it. So I can get it from Jane, who imports them into the States. So yeah.
Perfect.
But so that's another option if you're looking for a multicolored hand-dyed metallic. So those are a fun one. And then the other ones that people tend to see these are things that are blends. So Snow is from Karen Collection. This is polyester, and so this is actually 2 kinds of polyester. So one of them is the matte part, and one of them is the metallic-y part. Most people tend to see them in the white color because that's what a lot of people use, particularly for needlepoint. That's what a lot of people use for doing things like Snow. But it does come in quite a few colors, and it's a fairly drapey kind of material. My guess is this is another one of the ones that starts its life out as a thread for the garment industry, more than likely. Oh. This is actually made in the UK. This particular, it's dyed by Karen Collection, but the base thread's actually made in the UK. And then this is Vineyard Silk's Shimmer. So this is their shimmer silk with a filament twisted in it. So it's got a slightly different texture than the regular silk does, because anytime you twist a filament into it when you're twisting the silk, it's going to change what the texture looks like. So this is I think citron. No, this is creme brulee. So it's got kind of almost like a coppery kind of thing in it. Oh, I think it froze again. Well, crap.
Yep. Looks like it did. Yep. Oh, nope.
There it goes. It's just being slow. So it gives a nice texture because you get a bit of the matte and you get a bit of the shiny. Yeah, you can kind of see it almost looks like it's almost like a haystack weird kind of thing, because it almost looks like you got weird sort of stuff in there. Oh, hang on a sec. Marissa, can you bring me that bag of the new Avera Swath threads? Thank you.
Just put best address. Just put best address on it and send it to her. It's really, it's really way too much hassle. Just drop it at the post office.
Just throw it in a bag and throw it in the post.
Just be done with it.
Yeah. Why not?
Thank you. This is Brown Paper Packages, and it's their Stardust. So again, this is a silk blend. They're silk and wool twisted with a filament in it. So this one is more of an opalescent filament in it, but they do have other ones. So you can kind of see occasionally you get that light bounce off of it. Though these that are woven or that are twisted from, like, say this one and the Vineyard Silk one, they're a little harder to work with than just their straight threads, their straight silk or silk and wool, because the metallic changes the texture a bit, obviously. And so sometimes the first time people stitch with it, they think it's going to stitch exactly the same, and it doesn't stitch quite the same way. So, but those are fun ones. So those are kind of the oddball ones. Now, Rainbow Gallery.
Okay.
I'm not going to, I got most of them, and I'm not doing any of the non-metallic-y stuff. I'm just really working on those. So flare is tubular nylon. So think really, really skinny legs for hosiery. Actually, it could be hosiery for your pencil. I hadn't thought about that. That could work. So it is in fact a tube, but it does look a bit like what you would expect pantyhose or, nylon hosiery to look like. It's got that sort of sheen to it. It's got a sort of zigzaggy weave to it. That's part of what occurs when they're doing the tubes. And you can open it and you can actually kind of stretch it a bit. So you can kind of grab it and stretch it. It won't stay that way because it's not intended to, but you could actually do some fun things with it if you wanted to, say, couch it. Let me do that. I'll put that against the white thing there. Okay, hang on. There we go. So yeah, see, you can actually stretch it out a bit. So if you wanted to do this and then couch the edges of it down, you could actually end up with something that looked kind of, I don't know, interesting, funky, whatever your terminology is.
Yeah.
So that's flare. Now, frosty rays and petite frosty rays are flare with something shoved up the middle of that tube. So, because you can in fact make your own frosty rays. I've done it. It takes a little bit of time to get your needle. It works if you do it with a bullion needle, not a regular needle. If you can manage to get this open enough and get a needle shoved up in there, you can actually make your own. So this is the same tubular nylon. This is in fact actually the same color. So the base color of this frosty rays is the flare on the right. And then they've put a treasure braid down the middle of it. And what it looks like when you stitch with it will depend on what the color of that core thread is. So there's a number of frosty rays where the base flare is the same color, but there's 3 or 4 different colors of what the thread in the middle is. So like if you do this with a darker green, it changes what this looks like completely. So these are kind of fun threads because you can get that shiny, sparkly look in a different way than just using a straight metallic. And the difference between Frosty Rays and Frosty Rays Petite is not the outer tube, it's the thickness of the thread that's shoved up the middle. So this is like a petite treasure braid that's shoved up the middle. I'm just waiting for it to catch up. There we go. So the petite Frosty Rays works better if you're doing like an 18 mesh trying to do tent stitch. If you're going to do 18 mesh with longer stitches, regular Frosty Rays works, but regular Frosty Rays for tent stitch works better on like 13, 14, unless you try to really pack it down. So this is the clear one, kind of whitish clear with a gold down the center of it. Have either of you used these?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
They're a pain, but I love them.
Yeah, they're really kind of fun. Well, and the other fun thing you can do with the Frosty Rays is because it's got that thread shoved up the middle of it, is if you if you end one of these, like on the back, if you end the starting thread on the back, you can actually use it to ruche it. So you can pull that and then do this to it so that it's actually all bunched up. I've actually seen it done this way you can essentially emulate, say, like, a dress, a tutu, an interesting collar, a wreath if you're doing the right kind of color. And then you can always use the core thread for something else. It's a multi-purpose
and I've
thing.
seen
Kind of like a Swiss Army knife, but not quite.
I've seen people put beads in the flare too.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Yeah. The flare is really fun. It does take a little bit of time to get used to what you open it with. Because it is wider than you think. When you look on this, you think, oh, it's really narrow, but it's because it's been compressed when it got wrapped around the card. It's actually wider, has a bigger mouth opening than what you might think. So you can do a lot of really fun stuff with it, and it's very stretchy. So it will only stretch so far, but it will definitely stretch some. So you can use that to your advantage. Sometimes with a lot of these threads, it's more about can I do something fun with it that maybe I hadn't thought of before, or just that, looks interesting. It doesn't have to be a stitch or anything somebody else invented either. You can just make up your own.
Yeah, that's the flare and those. That's, to me, that's the real highlight, because they're a pain in the butt to anchor, and you have to be careful. You have to be careful laying them so they lay flat. But there's so much flexibility in those that your mind starts working, and you start thinking, oh wait, I could pull this a little tighter. I could leave this a little looser. All kinds of things, and it really allows you to be creative.
So this is water and ice. Water and ice is nylon. It is flat like a ribbon. And depending on the color, it can be mostly transparent. So this is the opalescent one, which isn't quite as transparent. The WT1, which is the mostly clear one, I use it for like windows and things like that, where I want to be able to see the color behind it, particularly on a needlepoint canvas. These, again, because these particular threads are thicker, you could do them on a cross stitch piece, but you have to sort of use them wisely. Like you would want to use them as something where you laid the stitch and then couched over it. Because unless you're working on like a 20 count linen, you're not going to have enough room for it to be able to flatten out.
Yeah.
But the water and ice is nice, and it does come in some really nice colors. So like there's a couple of really pretty blues that it comes in that are kind of fun. But yeah, it's almost like if you took cellophane noodles and flattened them out.
Yeah, people use them for windows and needlepoint, or don't they, like window panes?
Yep, that's actually I use them mostly for window panes. I use them for window panes and water. So the clear one I tend to use more for window panes, and a couple of the blues, there's a blue and a sort of greeny blue, I use those a lot of times for water. Because you get that iciness, or even ice, because you get that iciness and a different sort of sheen that you get from, say, the flare. You end up with a completely different sort of texture from doing those two.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so those are fun. And then Rainbow Gallery has its own.
Cathe, before you move on,
Yep.
Beth's got a couple questions there. We're going to get too far away from them.
Okay. Newper wanted to ask going back, if you get the cotton embroider from DMC, the linen,
the cut work. You're talking about the cut work one? I'm assuming she's talking about the cut work thread. Yes, we can still get it. The color options are more limited than they were 5 years ago.
Okay.
So, like we just got in. I think it was either the Blanc or the B5200, and then we'd been in, I think, the size 20 or the 30. I don't remember which, and we'd been waiting almost a year for it. So we buy a lot of the white, the ecru, the black. Those are the three colors we mostly sell, because that's usually what most people are after. And it's just getting harder to source it, because it just, it's not one of their mainstays. So sometimes they don't do the production run as frequently as they did 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, we do have it.
Okay, and Sandy wants to know which designers use like these. I think she's talking about the flare and that in their design and their pattern.
Well, at the cross stitch level, nobody uses them because they're too thick. At the needlepoint level, it would be the people who are doing stitch guides, and there are so few stitch guides on the market for needlepoint that's kind of more a function of, can you find somebody who's actually done one? We just tend to help people pick interesting textures for their canvases. And then, so that they can, like I said, if they want to do something where they're doing a window or something like that they've got that as an option. So yeah, from the cross stitch into the things, nobody uses them because they're too thick. And even the Rainbow Gallery the Mandarin floss. Splendor gets used once in a great while in a cross stitch chart, but extremely rarely. And the petite treasure braid might get called for because it's the one that's the thinnest. But most of the rest of the Rainbow Gallery threads, not a lot of cross stitch designers call for them. We substitute them a lot of times for people. So somebody needs a silk color that we can't find in anything else. Sometimes we find it in their threads.
And Sandy, the counted canvas people, Debbie Rowley and Curdy Biggs,
Debbie uses them a lot.
They wear that stuff out, yeah.
Yeah, Debbie, Curdy
and like
Biggs,
Cathe Reese.
Cathe Reese. Yeah, the Candid Canvas people use Rainbow Gallery threads. Well, they use Rainbow Gallery, Karen Collection, and Kreinik threads a lot. Because you get a lot of really interesting textures that way. So they would be the ones where you would most often see them called for in a chart or equivalent thereof. That answer that question?
Yep. Sandy, come over to the dark side. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Join us.
Yeah, counted, if you like to do counted work and you've thought, well, I think needlepoint's interesting, but I don't want to buy hand-painted canvas, look up Debbie's designs, Needle Delights Originals, and I'm completely spacing on Curdy's business name. But there's also Threadles. There's also Textured Treasures. There's a bunch of counted canvas people that do really gorgeous designs. We also sell some of the ones from Stitch Play from Carol Lake and Michael Boren. And they're fun. They're a really fun way to learn stitches, or even if you know stitches, they're just kind of a fun way to use stitches, which is nice. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So treasure braid. Treasure braid is essentially the equivalent of the Kreinik metallics. There's treasure braid petite, which if you were to give it a weight would be a number 3. It's slightly thinner than a Kreinik number 4. There's number 8, treasure braid number 8, which is really close to a Kreinik number 8. There's number 12. I'm just kind of waiting for the video to catch up because it's being slow. And then there's 16. As it thinks about it. And then there's 2 ribbons. I'll lay them out this way so you can actually see them all. So the treasure ribbon petite would be closest to a Kreinik number 16 ribbon. And the regular treasure ribbon would be closest to the Kreinik 1/8 inch ribbon. They don't have one that's close to the Kreinik, the thicker, I think it's the 24 ribbon. There's one ribbon they do that's really thick. Well, that's really wide as opposed to thick. And they are completely different colors than you'll get in either Kreinik or a Veriswa. So sometimes we will mix them for people because they need, a different kind of a gold that's maybe like this one that's more brassy, and what that looks like in a Kreinik or in a Veriswa is not quite the right color. Maybe it's got too much citron in it or something. So if you're going to do cross stitch, the treasure braid petite would be probably what you would find, and that does occasionally get called for in cross stitch charts. And then the number 8 would be the other one to look at. So if you're doing like a number 28 or a 25 count project, the number 8 will work well. The petite is a little thinner than a 4, so it's a nice addition for the denser linens. I've not done it on a 40 count. I think it's still too thick for that. But 36, you can kind of make it work. And they do not do a blending filament, so there's no equivalent of that in the treasure braids.
Yep.
So that's those. Yeah, and like I said, some of the one of the reasons we carry them all is nobody does the same colors. And even if you get gold from 3 different companies, they're not all going to be the same gold. Just like black from every company is not going to be the same. So these are blends. So silk lame is silk twisted with in this case, it's silk, rayon, and polyester. And the rayon and polyester is actually part of what comprises the metallic part of it. The rest of it's silk. So each one of these is a different weight. Silk lame, let me go find the right one. I don't think I have the petite one here. There is a petite one, which I didn't grab, and that's the one that's for cross stitch. Let me go grab one of them. So if you're looking for something that you would want to do on a, let's say a 28 count, the silk lame petite would be what you would want to use. 32 might still be a little bit too dense, but it'd be kind of maybe okay. The silk lame braid 18 is actually for 18 mesh, and the silk lame 13 is for 13 mesh. And in Rainbow Gallery's case, they actually number them differently. The color number is the same, but SP means silk lame petite, SL is silk lame, and LB is the silk lame 13 mesh. And so this is, again, a silk that's had a filament twisted into it. And the thing you should know in a pinch, so let's assume you have a stash of some threads. You need this color. So this is SL27, but you need to be able to, you need it thinner because you need to either do a layered stitch. You can actually pull out some of the silk threads. So each one of them has a different formula. So this one's got 4 silk threads with 4 filaments that are twisted into it. I've actually seen the machines they make this on. It's quite entertaining to watch them. The silk lame petite is actually 2 and 2. And the silk lame 13, I think it's either 6 and 6 or 8 and 2. I can't remember. I'd have to look at it. But they're all slightly different. So if you've got a thicker thread of silk lame and you need a thinner one and you're in a pinch, you can actually pull some of the strands of either the metallic or the silk out to make it thinner. That's not always the case with a lot of other threads, but you can with this one. And so let's see, the 13 mesh, the 13 one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is 8 and 8.
A quick question, Cathe.
So,
can you do surface work with those threads? Have you ever tried
yeah.
like okay. All right, like a chain
Yeah,
stitch and all
you know,
that.
it's like,
Just
oh yeah, you definitely can. It's like all of the thicker threads of any kind, whether it's silk or cotton or wool or anything. It's more a function of, can you get it through the fabric with the right needle? So
okay.
for a lot of these threads, it's more a function of the needle than it is even of the fabric sometimes. So like you could do a silk lame braid, the 18 mesh version, on a somewhat dense fabric if you're doing embroidery. If you've got the right kind of needle to open the hole of the fabric so that it's not going to shred it as you pull it through. But sometimes even if I'm using a thicker thread, I just will, I'll do it for like something like French knots where I'm not necessarily having to go in and out as frequently, or chain stitch where I'm, again, not having to go in and out as frequently. Or this is also really fun for if you want to do something like a wrapped stem stitch, where you've laid the stem stitch and now you're going to wrap it. You can lay the stem stitch out of whatever thread you want to use, like even say the linen thread. And then you can use the silk lame braid to wrap it to make it thicker. So if you wanted to do this in, say, like a brownish color to make a tree branch, you've got that sort of weird sort of sparkliness in there that would give kind of an interesting texture. So just because a thread is not necessarily made for a particular use doesn't mean you can't use it. It's just more experimenting with, can I make it work? And can I make it work with either the right fabric or the right needle or the right stitch?
Right.
And then the thing that they just added is, and this was a few months ago, like I think maybe October, is silk lame plus. So this is a silk lame ribbon. So this is the same silk lame, only instead of it being round, it's actually flat. So it will flatten out when you, let me put it on the side so you can actually see it. So it will actually flatten out when you go stitch with it.
Hmm.
So it's about the weight of, it's kind of more like, it's not even quite as thick as Neon Race Plus. It's closer to that. The silk in
Oh,
it
so
makes
it's
it
not that
fluff up a
wide?
bit.
Okay.
No, it's not very wide. So this would be another one that you could use if what you were after was having longer stitches and not having to worry about the fact that these other ones are completely round or mostly round. It's a lot harder to flatten out. It's a lot harder to flatten this thing out. I mean, you could do it, but you'd have to work at it. This is actually already flattened out. When they put it on the machines, instead of it getting twisted in sort of in the round shape, they actually do it so that it's more flattened.
Okay, so a quick question, another question. Could I use it
fine.
like for a Bargello stitch?
Yeah. Yeah, you could definitely use it for a Bargello stitch. Yeah. In fact, it would probably be really great for a Bargello stitch because it will, in fact, flatten itself out a bit after you've stitched with it. So it would fill up the holes. So that's the Silk Lame, and then this is Neon Rays Plus. So this is Neon Rays, which is their rayon thing. So this is the same sort of thing. It's a rayon and then metallized polyester to get you the rayon and the metallic in a ribbon form. So this is closer to what, if you've ever used YLI's ribbon floss or have ever seen it, this is close to what the ribbon floss is. So it's about 1/16 of an inch. So these two, the Silk Lame Plus and the Neon Rays Plus, are about the same flat, about the same width. The rayon stays flatter when they put it on the card. So the Silk Lame Plus, you just kind of have to work a bit to flatten it out more. That's just a function of the way rayon is. Because you can tell from this, rayon takes a crease and doesn't really want to let it go. That doesn't happen with silk. So that's part of why it takes a bit more work to flatten it back out when you're doing the Silk Lame Plus one. But that's a newish thread that they added last year.
So the Silk Lame Plus, does it come in the same range of colors as the braid?
Not yet.
Or close?
Not yet. It comes in about, well, let's put it this way. My Silk Lame takes up 2 full 22-inch wide, 6 feet tall racks. My Silk Lame Plus takes up not even a quarter of one. So they'll add to them over time, but my guess is that we're probably looking at 3 to 4 years before they have all of the colors, assuming that that's actually something they plan to do.
Well, I
mean, they added when they came out with the Neon Rays Plus, they started with the same thing. They started with like maybe 25% of the colors and then added to it over time.
It's just nice, I was just thinking of several pieces that I've done where with the Silk Lame braid, I was laying it and trying to get it, to look nice, and you're right, it's a rounded thread, and I was thinking, oh, that plus would have been perfect for those pieces.
Yeah, so they've got a pretty decent color range at the moment, but they're slowly adding in things as they have time to do the production themselves, because even just keeping up with their standard stuff that they're doing the manufacturing for their facilities in Burbank. They're just, everybody's so slammed that I think they'll add more colors as they have more bandwidth to do that. So the other 2 flattened threads for Rainbow Gallery are Sparkle Rays and Sparkle Rays Petite. So this is a silk metallic ribbon. This is a rayon metallic ribbon. These are polyester and nylon metallic ribbon. So this Sparkle Rays feels a bit more like a shoestring. It's got that sort of slightly flat look to it, but the sparkle that's in there is really nice. So this is more of sort of almost kind of a weird matte and shiny at the same time, matte and sparkly at the same time thing. It's always really hard to get these to look really good in any kind of photograph other than an actual photograph on camera. They never quite show up right. But you can see that there's quite a bit of sparkle to it for that. So you get a nice sort of bounce of color off of that. The regular sparkle rays, they recommend for 13-14 mesh, and the petite sparkle rays for 18 mesh. So you could do Bargello with either of these, depending on what the count of it was. The petite sparkle rays, they actually, you can do cross stitch on it. They recommend say 11 and 14. So you can do it up to about 28 count. At 32 count, it gets a little bit it gets a little too dense for it, unless you're doing some bigger stitch than just a straight cross stitch.
Okay.
Yeah, for those who
So
have
those
never,
are kind of, so those are nice ribbony kind of things.
yeah, those who have never used Rainbow Gallery stuff, on just about every one on the card, it tells you what size mesh the thread is designed for. So if you're in a store looking, you don't have to ask every time. You can just, it's right on the card.
Yeah. Yeah, they will usually, and sometimes it's really obvious and sometimes it's not so much. Some of the older threads from say 20 years ago, they've not necessarily, that they still produce, they don't always give you all those clues, but most of the stuff in the last say 15 years or so, they usually provide that information. So this is another set of mixed sparkly bits. This is Glisten and Entice. So glisten is rayon and metallized polyester. So this is another one of those where it's a filament woven in it. This is a braid as opposed to a ribbon, and it's got some really nice colors. So you get this nice same sort of thing. You get a couple of nice sheens in it. I'm not a huge rayon fan, but I actually like the glisten because surprisingly the metallic in it tames it a bit. I don't happen to like rayon a lot, only because rayon tends to be super wiry, or kind of jumps back on itself a lot. I find that the Entice works better because the metallic in it gives it a little bit more adhesion, so it's not quite so fly away. And then glisten is the same sort of formulation, only it's merino wool. So this is Bella Luce. This is Fleur de Paris Bella Luce with a filament woven in it. So this is a really different thing because you get this really matte texture with the metallic shiny texture. So this is different than any of the others, because even with the silk with it twisted in, or even the rayon, you don't get that sort of matte and shiny in the same thing. So this is a really nice blend of two kinds of threads.
That's nice. I'd not seen that one.
I like that. I'm thinking border on my my painted canvas.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is what it looks like. It's basically two strands of the.
Whoops. Put it right off the.
No, you're good. I was just going to try and move it. You stay there and I'll move to where it is. There we go. So it's two strands of the wool with one strand of the filament in it. It's kind of hard to see even with it close up, but you get that really nice, like I said, you get that really nice texture. I think it's one strand of, actually, it looks like it might be 2 and 2. Yeah, it's 2 and 2. So it's a couple strands of the wool with 2 strands of the metallic woven and twisted into it. So if you're looking for something that'll give you a little bit different texture, then this would be one I'd consider, because you do get that matte and sparkly in the same package, even more so than some of the other blends.
And does that come in a lot of colors, or is it?
Yeah, it comes in I don't know, like 80 or more.
Okay.
Yeah, they did the Entice first, and then they did Glisten, I'm thinking like maybe 4 years ago. It was definitely before the pandemic. So I think it was probably like 3 or 4 years ago. Okay. But yeah, it's got and it's actually pretty smooth. You know, a lot of times you think wool, if this were a different wool, it might not be as smooth, but because it's merino, even with the metallic twisted into it, it's actually still a really super smooth one. In fact, I find this, the glisten, smoother even than, say, like the silken wool Stardust with the metallic twisted into it. I would rather stitch with the glisten than this because this is smoother. And I think that might just, you know, it's a function of how Rainbow Gallery makes them, plus whatever the base threads that they use to make them.
Yep, you need that, Beth.
So those are fun.
Oh, you think? Okay, I need
Yeah,
it on
you
my
should.
Northwest. I should.
Yeah, you should try that. And then the
Yeah.
other interesting ribbony things are fireworks. So there's 3 kinds of fireworks. There's fireworks soft sheen, and fireworks hologram. And the hologram really does look like a hologram. You get that it'll pick up whatever color is around it kind of thing. So this is gold, but if you put a pink next to it, it's going to look like a gold and a pink. So depending on the angle you tilt this at, it's going to depend on how much gold reflects as opposed to how many other colors it reflects at the same time. The hologram colors, there are the fewest of them. Most of the colors exist in the soft sheen and the regular fireworks. And even though it says soft sheen, I find that it's actually, that the soft sheen is usually actually sparklier than the regular one.
Yeah,
Not quite sure why they
I
called it
was going to say,
soft
I don't
sheen,
see a
but
lot
whatever.
of soft there. Yeah.
I think it's because the fiber content is slightly different. This is 62% polyester, 38% nylon. This is 60-40. And it does change the look of it a little. So to put this into context, think about Lugana and Joblin. So both of those fabrics are cotton and rayon. The percentage of what's cotton and percentage of what's rayon is slightly different by like 1%, and it changes the texture completely. So just doing a small change can make that. So these are, again, about a 1/16 of an inch. So comparable to what you're seeing for, you know, a 16th braid in the Krynics. There's a lot of really fun colors. Some that are just straight solids, some that are like this one where it's more like a sort of, you know, party because it's like Mardi Gras kind of colors. Hey, you know, threads need to have parties too.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're the thing that enables us to have the parties.
Right.
So
or your canvas needs a party.
Your canvas needs a party. So these are all about the same width. Fireworks is made in England for the most part. That's where the base thread comes from. Fireworks soft sheen is made in Japan. And the holographic fireworks, this particular one's made in Taiwan. So when they source them, the threads from different places, even though they're similar, they will be slightly different because of that. Which is actually, I think, a feature, not a bug.
Right.
And then other fun ones are crystal braid. So this is nylon and polyester. I picked this color because even though it's kind of a boring color, you get a chance to sort of see how it reflects the color. So it's kind of like a dark ecru. It's really almost like a light mocha color. This is a 12 strand, so this would be closest to a Krynic number 12 in terms of the diameter of it. Again, because it's a multi-twisted thread, if you needed it slightly thinner, you could in fact actually pull it apart. And sometimes that's the fun thing, is just to try it and see if it works. And then there's sparkle braid, and there's sparkle braid petite. Sparkle braid is actually fairly thin. The petite one's even thinner. This is 100% polyester. This is kind of a bit more like a thicker version of Accentuate. So it's not quite the same as it's not even quite the same as a Krynic number 4. It's actually got a different texture to it, but it's got some really nice colors, and those are fun. And then there's the Gold Rush threads, which are twisted and usually rayon, polyester. The polyester is almost always the content of that is usually what the metallic is. And these are usually mostly tone-on-tone ones, but there's a few that are multicolored, kind of like the fireworks that I had that, you know, look like a Mardi Gras party. There's actually Gold Rush 14, Gold Rush 18, Gold Rush Variegated, which looks like it's hand dyed. It's not actually hand dyed, but it kind of looks like that. And then there's a Gold Rush XS, which is for cross stitch. So it's a much thinner variant of it. And these are actually threads that Rainbow Gallery's been, distributing for, I don't know, 25 or more years. They're kind of one of their long-term staples. And then Tiara. Tiara is another one of the rayon polyester things. And it's a little bit thicker than the Gold Rush 18. It's more like even though it's like a 16 to 22 count needlepoint. I use it mostly for 18 mesh, but you can use it on a 16. It works really nice. And it does have some nice colors. There's not a huge range of colors, but between it, the sparkle braids, the crystal braids, all of those, they're kind of comparable in weight. Sometimes it's just about what's the color that you're after.
Yeah,
And
I know
then
I've
the
used
last
those.
one,
They're fun.
Mhm.
They're fun
Yeah.
threads. They're fun threads.
And then the last one I was going to show was the coronet braid. So this is a Japanese metallic, and this is almost like a goldwork thread. So if you looked at the Kreinik cords, the structure of these more resembles that. Kreinik cords are made from a different base thread than the regular Kreiniks are. So like if you find a number 4 that's 104C, that's a cord, and it actually has a different structure to it than a normal Kreinik has. This is kind of more in that range. It doesn't come in a huge range of colors, but they're all really more metallic-y ones. So gold, silver, copper, those kinds of things. It doesn't come in a lot of super wacky colors. There is purple, there's some jewel tones in there. But you're not going to find things that are multicolored. They're always going to be just a solid color. So that's my take on the Rainbow Gallery ones.
All right.
Any questions? Any questions about that?
I think
Any questions, people?
I think we better get
Okay.
onto that basket that got hauled over of the new stuff, and before we run out of time.
Well, I'm going to just
Yeah.
do the metallics. I'll do the new other ones later because they're actually still in the box. We didn't actually
okay.
manage to get them unpacked. So you'll have to
Oh,
wait a
look
little
at
bit, sweetie.
those.
So
Oh,
these
so
are the
sad.
new, yeah. So Veriswa has a huge range of colors. What is imported into the United States is a smaller percentage of that, but slowly over time, Access is bringing in more and more of them. So these are the newer colors that they're bringing in. Typically, they've been doing the 12 and the 4, because in the U.S. market, the number 12 braid tends to be the most common for needlepoint, and then the 4 is the most common for people doing any kind of cross stitch. So these are the newer colors that have come in. I really like this. Sort of, this is almost like a reddish pink one, but it's really pretty. And then this is an opalescent, but it's a slightly different opalescent than the 032. It's actually got a little bit of a different color to it. It's a bit more creamy than the normal 032
nice.
is. Yeah, and then this is like a gunmetal, kind of a nice gunmetal kind of color. Actually, these two go together. Yeah, most of the time they'll bring in the same color. They'll bring in the same color in both, and in some cases it might be like the 021 might already be here in the 12, and the 4 got added. But yeah, so those are new fun. Those are new fun ones. And so what I was saying earlier when you were asking about the difference between the Kreiniks. So this is how drapey. I'll wait till the video catches up. This is how drapey the Veriswa metallics are. No, I guess it's going to freeze again.
There it goes.
Oh, there we go. It's just taking a while. So when I pull it off the spool, it still has a lot of drape to it. There's a little bit of a curve that it kept from being on the spool, but not a huge amount.
It's not a spiral.
And that's a 12. Yeah, and that's a 12. And usually a 12 in a Kreinik will have a bit more of a spiral to it.
Right. Those are beautiful, beautiful colors too.
Yeah, really nice colors.
Michelle has a question. Any ideas for sampler packs? I'm not sure what she means by that.
Oh, you mean for I would say we haven't done for threads, other than the silk sampling packs, we haven't done sort of a collection because everybody kind of wants something different. But we have a lot of people who will say, give us a budget and say, I want to try this kind of thread. Can you give me, 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever the amount is, colors in that? And here's kind of the colors I like, and then we'll pick them. So you can always just even send us an email and say, I saw, like, if you wanted to try, a Londonderry linen thread or one of the Rainbow Gallery metallics or something, you can just say, I'm looking to try, 3 or 4 of these, and I'd like you to send me a smattering of, whatever particular ones you might be interested in. If you know that you're going to work on a particular count, that helps us know what to look for or what to avoid. So anyway,
those metallics are gorgeous.
That's it.
Just
yeah,
gorgeous.
I'm really happy with them. I think they're really, really pretty.
Yeah, they are. Wow. All right, back on screen for
Okay.
everybody.
And we managed to go an hour and 20 minutes again.
We did. We did.
Yay!
Yay. All right, Cathe, thanks again. Always a pleasure. Always
You're
fun.
welcome.
Yep. Thanks to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're out. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.
Or bye.